Yo, welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. I'm your host, Jose Rocks, and today we're going to be discussing the team that I believe was going to win Worlds. So this team is incomplete. It's pretty much this core of 5 plus a filler, but this is a team that I believe is going to take on the championship in Worlds. This team has been all over the ladder and has been really crushing it. I've also used this team, a variant of this team, and it's just extremely good. So the idea behind this team is like the main Pokemon that you want to lead with is like Dragonite Chimp-Out. And this combo has been good, like I said before in previous videos, since before the series even started. The preseason, back before Series 1, when all the Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet were able to be used just to play with. Like the series hadn't started yet. The season hasn't kicked off yet. So we kind of call that the preseason, right? But it showed like a lot of strength back then. And now in Regulation C, when Regulation C came back, we got to see it come back full force. But for some reason, I feel like it's even stronger in this meta. And this meta has introduced a lot of new powerful Pokemon. But the only thing about these powerful Pokemon is that a lot of them are really frail, right? So with them being frail, that leaves them very susceptible to like getting knocked out by Choice Band Extreme Speed. And that's really just what you're really seeing most. Like the Flying Terror, Assault Vest, like occasionally you'll see like another item on it. But most people are running this set right here, the Normal Terror and Extreme Speed, and then whatever combination of moves they want to use. Some use Outrage, some are using Aerial Ace, some are using Stumping Tantrum, Low Kick, just any a combination of these moves. And then the Chimp-Out is usually Ghost Terror. And I've seen the most consistent set, even though my team has a different set on the Chimp-Out. The most consistent set is the Ice Spinner, Sucker Punch for your dark coverage, Sacred Sword, because Sacred Sword is just really good in the Pokemon like Goodra that want to boost up and protect, right? And this has been like the core that's really been dominating the series so far, Regulation D. So the next part is the Urshifu and the Tornadus. So we all know how good Tornadus is next to water types, going back to like Sword and Shield with Kyogre and Tornadus, and even probably before then in the other series. I had just came back to playing Pokemon in Sword and Shield, so I didn't really see like when Kyogre was available in other formats how well it did with Tornadus, like in Gen 6 or 7. So the idea behind this is that Tornadus, is going to have Rain Dance and Tailwind. And so the Rain Dance does really well into like some of the Sun teams that were attempting to run around. But this kind of completely invalidates them, right? Because you can set up manual rain and get rid of that Sun. So Torkoal can't really switch in safely and get his Sun up at any point, right? And then then Tornadus is also running his new move, which is Bleak Wing Storm. And then Taunt. So Taunt is really good at shutting down things like Goodra, Mungus from sporing it. Cresselia, if Cresselia doesn't have a Mental Herb, shutting down Trick Room. And then Covert Cloak or Mental Herb on this is kind of like the most common items, right? So we'll just go Covert Cloak for sake of this one, right? And then they have any combination of EVs. Some are really bulky and some opt for max speed, so they can go for the Taunt speed tie against other Tornadus. And that's why some Tornadus are running Mental Herb, right? So they don't have to worry about being taunted. And if you go for a taunt to a Tornadus that has Mental Herb and they read that and they simply just ignore it because of their Mental Herb and they double up into your Tornadus and KO it, and you don't KO their Tornadus in return, you're in a really bad spot because they get a free Tailwind up the next turn and there's nothing you can really do to stop it at that point, right? And then Ghost Terror is really good on this because that helps you get around just getting knocked out by Dragonite in mirror matches, right? And so Urshifu, a lot of the people are running Mystic Water. The set that I wanted to use, that I was running on my team, is Choice Scarf. I feel like having the extra speed on this is really valuable into those Tailwind mirror teams. And Choice Scarf Urshifu, like being able to go through Protect is just, in my opinion, is just really good. With the Mystic Water, you do have to kind of tear to not get knocked out by Flutter Mane, which Flutter Mane is still pretty common in this format. And another thing that I've seen kind of rise, and I've seen it on a couple videos, is Protective Pads. So Protective Pads is actually a really good item because it allows you to ignore It allows you to ignore things like Rocky Helmet or maybe like Rough Skin. Whenever you hitting something with contact moves and it has like secondary effects, it allows you to ignore that. So this is Protective Pass is really good for this Pokemon. I really like that this item was introduced. I don't know if it was in Sword and Shield. If not, it was very unused. But I do think it was introduced in Gen 9. I just never saw it. But until now, I've seen like a couple people using it. I've thought that it's really smart because it stops you from taking extreme recoil damage from the Rocky Helmet, which is really common right now, in order to deal with Urshifu in the current meta, right? And then the next set you see is Flutter Mane. The one that I was running is an Imprisoned Trick Room set, but there is a lot of just, choice specs still running around, and Booster Energy, Special Attack, Booster Energy Speed with like 3 attacks, Moonblast, Shadow Ball, and Dazzling Gleam. But I kind of like this set, and then enough speed. Like I would say, let's go. I feel like I was doing this like 350, and then bring this up here, right, and then just dump the rest right here, and then put some of it in defense, and just go and go Modest Nature. All right, so it was actually less than that, right here. This way you still get the speed boost, right? You're still dealing good damage, and now you can be like really bulky on your Flutter Mane, right? So that way Chien-Pao can't really KO you with those sucker punches that it likes to go for, and you survive Ice Spinner, right? And then you go for the 9 on the end of your HP, just to maximize like recovery, just in case like they have a Rillaboom or something like that, or anything like that heals Flutter Mane after time. You just always want to try to get that 9 at the end of your HP, just so you optimize the healing, right? And so I feel like this is, a pretty good set for it. Just get that bulk. And Flutter Mane, a lot of things are weak to Fairy, right? So you're pretty much hitting everything that you're going to hit with super effective damage. That's why you don't really have to invest that much into Flutter Mane's special attack in this current meta. And this is a pretty good set. Like, I would probably prefer Dazzling Gleam just to have a spread damage, even though it's a little bit weaker. And then you just go Fairy Terror to get the extra boost of damage. And this is a pretty good, consistent Flutter Mane set. And I feel like the 350 still helps you outspeed Regieleki, right? So that's pretty much all that you need. And I feel like this is one of the best Flutter Mane sets right now. So in the last Pokemon is usually like filler, right? So filler is for my team. I had Goodra. So I do want to do a separate section in this video just to talk about some of the filler mons. But to round my team off, the Shell Armor Goodra is just to give me a better matchup into like the other Urshifus. If you get rid of their checks, like their ground checks or their fighting types, then this Goodra is just really good in the end game, just setting up shelters and going for body press and heavy slam, right? And it has a really good matchup in the Flutter Mane, right? Because the special defense is 150, and then it gets heavy slam to just one shot it. And Goodra is really heavy, so its heavy slams, even without any attack investment, are extremely powerful, right? So this is kind of the set I wanted to go with. I wanted the Dragon Fairy Steel Core, so that's why I kind of went with the Goodra, added it to my team. I know I don't have the real Fire, Water, Grass Core, but I feel like this has just been really consistent for me, and I've been like really destroying the ladder. Now I've went up against a lot of mirror matches, and I've been able to win them. And a large part of me winning some of those mirror matches is just the fact that I have Goodra. That once I did, like, this team doesn't really deal with Goodra, right? So when you're going against it, they don't have a Goodra answer. You pretty much play towards getting rid of like Dragonite so it can't go for Choice Band Outrage, and then you just play towards your Goodra. And then I have Fairy Terror on my Goodra, right? But I feel like it's the best Terror from it. A lot of people are saying that you should use Flying Terror on Goodra because Goodra's weaknesses are fighting and ground, right? But the thing about that is, while flying is immune to ground and resists fighting, what you become weak to is one of the most common Pokemon in this format, which is Chien-Pao. And now instead of it hitting you with a Sacred Sword, it's going to hit you with a Stab Ice Spinner, right? And that's not good. So you rather just take neutral hits from this and be able to, play around the first hit being resisted by them going for a fighter moving to you with the Fairy, and then ground is neutral, right? And then also like Dragon type, like powerful Outrage Choice Band is really strong into like removing Goodra before you get boost. Now with the Fairy Terror, you're completely immune to that, right? And then the item is Leftovers. I've seen some Rocky Helmets. I haven't actually tried Rocky Helmet myself to really give a grade on it, but I have been trying just pretty much this set. Then you go with Shelter, body press, and protect. Protect. Right? And this set has been really consistent with me. The EVs vary depending on how you want to use it. I typically don't go that much special defense investment because it's already strong. So I kind of went to like just 350 and then put pretty much everything else in defense and go for the I went for Empress Nature because I don't need a special attack. And then I think I stopped around like 310 and then I just dumped the rest in HP. And you can just put the rest in defense right there if you want. Or you can add a little bit to attack. Actually, I wanted to stop at the 9, right? So I think I went like, 320. So this is the set I was running. You don't really need speed investment on Goodra. It doesn't really need outspeed. If you want to take a point away from something and put it into speed, like if you want to drop this down and just put that in speed, that way you can just outspeed other Goodra that don't have any speed investment as well. You could go for that. But this Pokemon is really strong into the meta right now. I'm happy that, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because even though it might be annoying to some people, it's something that we haven't had in the format and that we've been wanting to play with since Arceus came out, but we haven't had an online circuit to play on it with, right? So this is kind of the team that I believe is going to win Worlds. I do believe that my variant, this is the variant that I made, right? I believe that, well, it's outside of this. So I actually have, I do have Ice Spinner. So let me put that back. Ice Spinner. So instead of Sucker Punch, I have Ice Shard. And I have Crunch, right? So I wanted Crunch because a lot of Pokemon in the meta right now are going for Ghost Terror to get around Dragonite. And I wanted to be able to punish that, right? So a lot of the time what I like to do is go for Extreme Speed and double up into that slot with a Crunch. Because if they tear in the Ghost trying to get away from my Extreme Speed, then I just KO them with Crunch. Because Crunch coming off, the attack, the defense drop from Stab Chien-Pao is pretty much almost one-shot everything that is super effective against. Because a lot of the things that you want to just knock out with Extreme Speed that tear in the Ghost are never that bulky, right? So Crunch is just usually always able to pick them up. And Chien-Pao is one of the fastest Pokemon in the format. So if they're not going for like a priority move, you still just move before them and KO them. And while you might be wasting your Extreme Speed, if you're KOing one of their Pokemon before they move, a lot of the time they're not one-shotting Dragonite, right? So then you can just Extreme Speed the partner the next turn, right? Once they send in something that's not a Ghost. Or even if it's a Steel type, you're still doing like 30-40% to it next to Chien-Pao, which is really good, right? So I do sometimes miss the Sacred Sword coverage. But I feel like with how many Ghost types are running around, that Crunch has just been really good for me, right? And then the Ice Shard on my team is just to cover for like Fluttermane trying to go for like Substitute or like something switching out to play around Sucker Punch. You still get like consistent damage off. And also like a lot of the mons that are common that like to do priority things in a format like Thundurus, Tornadus, Choice Scarf, Landorus. It's a lot of Pokemon that are weak to ice right now. And also Dragonite if it doesn't tear, right? They're weak to ice and you're able to just go for priority Ice Shard and just deal a bunch of damage to them immediately. Or before when you're on 1 HP and they got tail one up, you can just pick things off with Ice Shard. And they can't really play around it like they could play around Sucker Punch, right? So I kind of like this set and I wanted to go with it. And it's been working out for me. The highest I've gotten so far is 15 on the ladder. I'm going to be posting a video tomorrow of one of my rank 1 pushes. But I do believe that I'm going to get to rank number 1 with this team. I believe it in my heart. I've learned it, I've mastered it, and I'm using it very well on ladder. I haven't really played with much of my other teams. I did make 5 teams for this format, but I haven't showcased them yet because I've been kind of grinding, like getting used to this team because I really want to push the tempo with this team and like be one of the best players to use it, right? And just as far as this format, of course, I'm not actually going to be participating in Worlds this year, but I will be trying to go next year. But I do want to still like be one of the best players on the ladder that's using this core of Pokemon, right? So in the next part of this video, I want to kind of get into some of the, so let's go new team. I want to get into some of the filler move Pokemon, right? So some of the fillers that are actually on this team outside of Goodra. When I first created my team, the first team that, because I didn't take this team from, it wasn't inspired by anyone. I built this early on just by, I wanted to use Urshifu with the rain, right? I wanted to try to use Chien-Pao next to Urshifu to break through protects and do a lot of damage and just maximize Urshifu's damage. So that's why I had Chien-Pao on the team. Then I was like, okay, since I'm using Chien-Pao, why not just use Dragonite, right? And so after using Dragonite, I was like, okay, I need to round out the team. I want to have some special damage because this is a bunch of physical attackers, and only Tornadus was my special attacker, and that's not covering the special spectrum enough. So of course I added Fluttermane, which is always a great Pokemon. It just is very splashable when you have a team full of physical attackers, just to throw that attacker on there. And a lot of things are still weak to Fluttermane in this format, right? And then now I was left with the 6 slot, and I was like, okay, well, I kind of want something that's kind of slow but kind of bulky, and I can play towards in the end game, and that's why I came up with Goodra. So that's how I came up with my team. But a little bit after I created my team, I did see the same exact team, but the first one I saw had Cleaver on it, and I was kind of impressed with this. I didn't want to try it myself, but I was just took note of it because I felt like it was gonna be kind of common. And it was a Rocky Helmet Water Terror Cleaver, kind of bulky. I don't remember what the EVs were, with Sharpness, and it had X Scissor, I believe, Stone Axe, not Wide Guard, Quick Guard. Does it get Wide Guard? It doesn't get Wide Guard. I was just curious. Quick Guard and Feint, so it can break through protects. And I thought this set was pretty cool. And so this was the filler Pokemon that was on the team that I saw that was a mirror of mine. Also, the Chien-Pao was just a regular Chien-Pao set. It wasn't like unique like how mine is. So this team was pretty cool. I think that this is a very good Urshifu counter. I do feel like it's kind of like once you see the team though, Cleaver kind of becomes like dead weight because people are just gonna know it's gonna tear the water, can hit it. It's not the bulkiest of Pokemon, but it's bulky into Urshifu Surgeon Strike because it's meant to be a counter for that. But it's not the bulkiest of Pokemon to where it's gonna stick on a field forever. You can't just remove it, right? And if you know it has Quick Guard and Feint, you're not gonna like protect in front of it where you can be knocked out potentially, or go for priority in front of it, right? So like Choice Band, Outrage from Dragonite just completely just obliterates this thing, right? And I noticed that when I played against the mirror that have Cleaver, and they try to bring it because they think I'm gonna bring Urshifu, and I just don't even bring Urshifu, and it just Cleaver is kind of like dead weight. But that was the first iteration I've seen. Now some more iterations I've seen that I thought was really cool was Heatran. I think that Heatran is pretty strong on that team, and it was Grass Terror Heatran, right? So adding Heatran to this team actually gives you because it's Grass Terror with Terra Blast, and it's always gonna have Heat Wave, right? And then let's see, Earth Power and Protect is the last move with Leftovers. And I think this is a pretty cool set because now that you have Urshifu on the team and you add a fire type that has Grass Terror, now you kind of like pseudo cover for your Fire Water Grass core, right? Heatran is able to take on 2 cores at once and kind of like be the grass and the fire type for the team. And then it has the water and Urshifu, right? And surprisingly enough, when I've played against Heatran on the ladder, it's actually kind of good into my team. And you might think, why is it good into your team? You have Urshifu. It's because they always save the Grass Terror for Heatran. And I usually bring my Urshifu in the back, right? I rarely lead it like that. Sometimes I do lead it when I feel like it can just sweep. But they save Heatran, right? But they put Heatran on the field, and I'm really not able to deal much damage to it with like Choice Band Extreme Speed or Outrage, or even with my Chien-Pao. I can go for crunch into it, but it usually only does about like 35-40%, right? So Heatran's able to stick around, right? And then by the time Urshifu is able to come in and I KO everything around Heatran, it can just tear in the grass and then one-shot my Urshifu, right? So it actually kind of is annoying for my team, but I see why a lot of people are using it. And like, it's funny because it's a fire type, but because it's always running Grass Terror, that makes it be like a counter into Urshifu, because Urshifu is always going to want to click Surgeon Strikes into it, but it can't easily do that. And even close combat, like its defense stats are pretty good and its HP bulk. So close combat is really not one-shotting this thing if it tears. And it's just going to kill you back with Terra Blast, right? And like I said, most Urshifus are not running Focus Sash. Well, Water Urshifu, Rapid Strike, they're not running Focus Sash. That's usually Focus Sash will be on the dark variant of it. So you're pretty much always going to one-shot it back with Terra Blast. So another Pokemon I saw to give this team not really a Trick Room core, but a Trick Room answer, and also like something to reverse their Tailwind. So if they go for Tailwind, you can go for Trick Room. That way you're not just losing to the mirror. And like playing with Cresselia on this team gives you like something that can stop other Trick Room teams, because this team wants to go really fast and hit hard, and like it wants to outspeed everything, right? And so it does not like to be in Trick Room. So having Cresselia gives them the mind game. Like if they lead Cresselia, you can literally never even click Trick Room with Cresselia, and you're gonna be threatening Trick Room every turn that you have it. Will threaten reversing Trick Room, right? And that seemed like a really useful set is like Icy Wind and Moonblast. I would say Moonblast, but you could go Ice Beam since a lot of things are weak to ice in this format. You can go Ice Beams. That way you can surprise KO Landorus too, if it's not Assault Vest. And then, what's this signature move? This new signature move, not Lunar Dance. Why is it not up here? Lunar Blessing. Yeah, Lunar Blessing. So this is a pretty cool set, and then you want to definitely go with like Mental Herb, so that you're not taunted, or you could go over a Covert Cloak. Since this team is not a hard Trick Room team, like what Cresselia is going to be on a hyper offense team, I would say Covert Cloak. That way you get around getting flinched, right? Because you don't really care about getting taunted. Because most Trick Room teams are not going to try to taunt you to stop you from doing Trick Room, right? Because they want to go for Trick Room themselves. So Covert Cloak is better on this set. And then I guess like Water Terror is the best terror on it. Just give you the least amount of weaknesses that you kind of resist, and you don't want to be Norma Terra and be weak into like fighting moves. Like fighting is really good right now. I thought that Norma Terra could be good for Cresselia, but I think Water might be the most consistent. Also, Fairy is another good Terra, and if you do go with Fairy Terra, then you should go with Moonblast here, just so you can use it defensively and offensively. Right, turn Cresselia is pretty much a Fairy type, and that's really good into like Choice Band Dragonite. So that's also another good set that you can try. I do want to kind of try a variant of my team, adding Cresselia, just to see how it does. But the only thing about Cresselia is it doesn't threaten a lot of damage. Like Goodra, while it's pretty slow, once it gets set up, it's like very hard to KO, and it's threatening even more damage. Like they're both hard to KO, but Goodra does the job a little bit better. But Cresselia does the utility job as far as like supporting the team a little bit better, right? So it's kind of like pick your poison with that one. Another fun iteration I've seen is Dondozo, right? So just bulky, sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. So no, not Groudon, Dondozo. So just bulky Dondozo with leftovers, and then Yawn. So the Yawn set, and then you can have Fissure just to, eventually, like if you have this Dondozo against Goodra, this gives you like a Goodra out option, because if you have Dozo in the end game with Goodra, all you gotta do is keep kicking Fissure until you hit it, right? If it's not Flying Terror or Goodra, eventually you're gonna hit the Fissure and protect every turn before it has a chance to carry you with Body Press. And Heavy Slump is never doing enough, right? So I feel like this is a really consistent set. And of course you have Protect, and then maybe Wave Crash. And this does really, I feel like this is a good fit for this team as well. Is this something bulky to add to this team that's hard to remove, to give the team like something that has a switch in capability and kind of annoying for the opponent, right? So I've seen that. I've also seen Iron Hands. And this, like I said, this is all with the same first 5, but the last Pokemon is different. Now the Iron Hands is usually like Assault Vest, and for Fake Out just gives the team a Fake Out option, right? So you have something that can pivot and probably like Volt Switch. I have, like, before this series, Swords Dance Iron Hands was picking up with no Fake Out and Detect, but I feel like in this current format, like the Assault Vest variant is picked up a lot more, because it's so offensive that you really don't have time. Like, you set up a Swords Dance, like you're already like probably half of your HP is gone, and the Assault Vest just gives you more bulk to work with, right? And I feel like this is just a good answer. This is not a Trick Room answer, but this does help you a little bit with the Trick Room matchup too. So anything that like gives you, like, helps you with the Trick Room matchup, like, to be honest, all 3 of these can help you with the Trick Room matchup, because they can help you stall it out and give you like a slow mon that's not easy to knock out, right? So that's the idea behind Iron Hands, right? Another really offensive set that I saw partner was Chiyu. So Chiyu goes good on this team because it does very well with supporting Tornadus and Flutter Mane, when allowing their special attacks to do more damage while being fast. And, like, it's usually always right now in this format Ghost Terror, so you're just not removed by Dragonite easily, and then like Choice Scarf or something like that, so you can outspeed like Chien-Pao, and Chien-Pao can't really KO you with like priority, right? And then you can outspeed it and go for Heat Waves, right? And if you facing the Dragonite, you just Ghost Terror and do a bunch of damage with your Heat Wave, right? I actually played against a Chi-Yu. I lost to one and I beat one. I beat a ranked 3 player that was using Chi-Yu. And I also lost to like another player using the Chi-Yu variant of this team. So I think that Chi-Yu is pretty consistent on this team as well. It is a good partner for it. I want to go over just a couple of more niche partners that I think could be decent, but I have not seen these on teams yet. So the first one is going to be Landers. So I haven't seen Landers on this iteration, and I can understand why. The team already has like some ice. It doesn't really have any ice resistances outside of Urshifu and Chien-Pao, and those Pokemon are not that bulky, right? So Tornadus and Dragonite both being weak to ice, and Dragonite being 4 times weak to ice, adding another 4 times weak to ice is not that good. But if you can like find a good terror, like water terror around this, and just have like Intimidate with Assault Vest, then this Pokemon can be pretty bulky, and I feel like it could be a great pivot for the team. It is decent into the Dragonite if you can like get away from. I haven't seen any Ghost Terror Landers, but if you can get away from just getting decimated by extreme speed, then you can do a lot of damage with like Earthquake and Rock Slide and things like that. And one more niche pick that I just want to kind of discuss this is Hisuian Zoroark. Now, I haven't tried this myself, but I don't know why more people haven't tried it on this team, because this team really likes to get like in the mirror matchup. They really want to lead their Dragonite and try to one-shot your whole team, except for Fluttermane because it's not Ghost. And if you don't Ghost Terror your Tornadus or Ghost Terror your Chien-Pao, then Dragonite can kind of like break through your team, and then they can just 4v1 your Goodra. And if they have like ground type coverage or fighting coverage, and you don't have a Terror, then you're in a good spot. But Zoroark kind of helps you confuse that matchup, because this being on the team means that they can't really fake out like Chien-Pao or extreme speed or go for like priority things like that easily into this team, because they don't know if it's going to be a Zoroark or not, right? And this Zoroark specifically, since it's immune to extreme speed, right? It's immune to fake out. It's immune to fighting moves like Goodra and Chien-Pao. They don't like taking fighting moves, right? And they going for a fighting move to this, it's just immune to it. Excuse me. So, and that's just the idea for me behind this. I feel like it's a good pick for it. I don't know a set that I would use for it with, but I kind of do want to experiment with this Pokemon and see how good it can be. I think the best item for it might be probably Life Orb, and go with like its Bitter Malice attack. Right, and a 75% chance to lower attack by 1. This is a pretty useful utility. 75 base power. It's not bad. I mean, Shadow Ball is better, but not that much better, right? With the added effect, I would probably rather go with Bitter Malice, right? So that's the idea. I do believe that I want to make a hard prediction, and that I want to make this call that this is the team that's gonna win Worlds. I believe that it can do it. I believe that it's powerful enough to. I believe that it has the right tools that it needs and has the right answers into everything, right? So if you agree with me, let me know. Drop a comment, subscribe, turn on those post notifications, because I am posting content every single day. And let me know, what do you think? What team do you think is going to win Worlds? And let's just, we are talking about Regulation D, right? Because this is going to be the Worlds format, right? So what team do you think is going to win Worlds? Do you think this team has a chance? Do you think this team will be solved by the time Worlds roll around? I don't believe it will be, because it's so powerful, and I think only a month is not enough time to find like a complete check. And if you build a team that's completely good to check this team, then you might lose to like a lot of other teams that are in the format, right? So it has to be kind of like that balance of just being able to wall this team or do well into this team, but still do well into the rest of the format. You can't just have a hard check for this team and then just lose to everything else, right? So that's my idea on it. Like I said, let me know in the comment below what you guys think, and I will catch you all in the next one. All right, deuces.